Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Snuggly Sunday Vibes. Let me wiggle myself in this snuggly little corner. I'm gonna try not to bump the table. Um, yeah, today's topic of conversation is really interesting. Forgive me for I am in my Sunday attire and I'm not changing because that would defeat the purpose entirely of what I'm talking about today, which is a very personal perspective of coming into the awareness that I am a highly sensitive being. And 20% of each species are have higher sensitivity than the rest. This has been scientifically, psychologically, proven and analyzed, and it started with this woman. Oh, what was her name? I have her right here because I want to make sure I have this all on point. So this started with, I've always felt a little bit different inside myself, but then I found this documentary I stumbled across called Sensitive, The Untold Story. And it's by this woman. Her name is, oh, about the temperament trait of high sensitivity found in 20% of the population in both men and women. Based on the findings, best-selling author, psychologist, Dr. Elaine Aron, the highly sensitive person. And when I stumbled across this documentary, I was like, no effing way. Because I have a couple friends of mine who I have conversation with, and we're like, yeah, man, I don't know what it is. Like I've always just been too much, or I felt too loud. And that's something that I say often, and you might have heard me say in some of my other videos. PS, I'm having a shoulder issue today. I don't know what PS stands for, but FYI, I guess is probably the better way to say it. So if you're watching me squirm, it's me trying to get my shoulder in a comfortable position because I, when I start working it out, it doesn't like it. Um, and so yeah, I have a couple friends where we feel like we feel bigger and louder. Oh, excuse me. As soon as I turn the camera on, I just start burping. It's like when I finally relax, you know? I feel safe here with you guys, with the community. I know this attracts, and maybe that's why my body just like starts to get comfortable, release gas. Sorry. Um, yeah, I felt really loudly, I would say, like energetically. Um, and I don't want to put too many technical words in here because it's really important to me that I communicate in a way that if you feel this way as well, you can relate to. And I'm not like overcomplicating it with like my spiritual um beliefs, or because as I've come to understand, it's energy. And I mean, if we really think about it, everything's energy, but really to make it in like a very simple, bite-sized, like easily digestible, understandable way, even for people that don't identify as highly sensitive or aren't sure if they are, or maybe have a child or have a friend or a partner that has these traits. This is really helpful information for us to know just as a collective, because there are advantages to being highly sensitive and there are disadvantages. And I've found that it can be used as a gift. It is a gift channeled in the most appropriate ways. And when it's not channeled in those appropriate ways, or you're unaware of these sensitivities, like I have been most of my life, um, there are a lot of difficulties and, um, there's a lot of turmoil that can come of it. And if I'm speaking from personal experience, like when I when I reflect back on my life from what I can remember, childhood was really um it's really not there very much. Like it's choppy. It comes back slowly. But regardless, when I think of something that is coming up for me to heal personally right now is around the age of 16, which is why this topic of conversation for me is also relevant because I need to understand what's going on inside myself, and sharing it with you guys and gals and everybody really helps me do that. And then I've also been finding that it's very helpful for more than just me, and so that's why I bring it into this space. Um, and as an example, this is me channeling this high sensitivity, um, is by talking about it. And so to paint a picture, this thing that I'm healing is around when I was 16 years old. And when I was 16, I remember picking up drugs, cocaine specifically, for the reason that I just didn't want to feel what was going on inside of me anymore. Like it was just were too loud. It was too much. My boyfriend at the time was abusive. I don't think he meant to be. We were young, being 16 years old, and and we're just the example of the love we see and the relationships we see. So if our parents weren't in healthy relationships, then we're just copycatting what we know. And not to excuse the behavior in any way or invalidate that it was wrong, but I've definitely had my fair share of wrongs and abusive tendencies, coming from unconscious places, right? Like hurt people. And I remember I said to myself, like, I'm going to start doing this drug. And well, I found when I started doing cocaine, like whatever, it starts for fun, or a friend gives it to you, or um, happens at a party. And I found that it numbed that part of myself. It quieted that inner noise that I felt in the world. And something that you would have heard me say in some other videos is I don't meditate after 7 a.m. Or 8 a.m. It's different depending on the days, but simply because it's too noisy after 8 a.m., I would say, because I feel once the world wakes up and I can feel that, um, it's too noisy inside of me. It's too noisy outside of me for me to quiet myself internally to that meditative state. And that's different too. Like today it feels really quiet. It's Sunday. But I've always like I can feel noise, and that is one of the ways that I will probably describe the what like how that sensitivity, or how I relate to being highly sensitive throughout this conversation. And we have Snuggly Blue here. Yes. So he's gonna be our little snuggly emotional companion throughout this journey. And I apologize in advance if I trail or start to disassociate, or as I dive into a little bit of my past and how this, kind of my journey of becoming aware of highly sensitive, and where these like insights are kind of birthing from. And um yeah, it really comes from, anyways, yeah. So it's easy for me to get lost in my storytelling, especially if it's highly emotionally charged, which a lot of the things I talk about on here aren't because I know better. Some things are, but yeah, I don't tend to show off open wounds unless they're healed, which means they're not opened and people can't put salt in them. Um, just a side note for anybody out there that wants to start sharing their vulnerability. There's a boundary there. And so a friend of mine has always felt this way as well, that she's a little bit different. She has, um, yeah, she feels bigger and bolder and brighter than um, others in her family. And from what I recognize, or from like a self-analysis or a just like awareness perspective, it seems that individuals with high sensitivity also have parents with high sensitivity. So whether my parents are aware or not, I think they're both highly sensitive. And if I look at me and my brothers, we all have high sensitivity. However, it manifests in different ways. High sensitivity doesn't mean you're an introvert or an extrovert, because um, you can be either or and be highly sensitive. I know that at one point in my life, I was an extrovert, and um, and then uh, uh, I sat with some plant medicine, which was 5-MeO DMT, and then it shot me into the more introverted place. And that was actually the period in my life when it all shifted. And so we're going to work our way up to that, because I want to try to build throughout this process in a way that will help others and you watching this unravel within themselves their sensitivities and their highly intuitive and highly sensitive abilities. And I really truly think it's a gift when it's channeled. And so I want to get into that as well. I really tried to take notes on this to keep myself on course and be able to navigate this in like a professional um, and logical standpoint, but it's not, that really goes against, excuse me, what I'm talking about, because being highly sensitive and intuitive and feeling your way through life like I do means you have to get out of your own way. Like the logical brain has to like get out of the way. And so to really get us like in here, I'm just gonna make sure we're as comfortable as possible. And let myself go on a little tangent without trying to filter or be a robot because I'm on camera. So so funny. I was taking that sip and I heard somebody say that cup's as big as your face. It 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 is. It is as big as my face. That's incredible. I had no idea it was that big. I don't fill it full because it's actually too heavy to hold. But it keeps my tea hot, which is why I always am using this cup, because it takes me hours to drink my hot beverages. And this keeps them warm forever. Okay. Okay, now that we're comfortable. Hmm. Yeah, I'm really just gonna feel my way through this. That is me exercising this as a gift rather than it hindering and feeling like it gets in the way because I'm trying to use my logical brain and I'm trying to like psychoanalyze how to best convey. No, I really feel like the best way to do it is just to feel my way through. And so we're gonna go on a journey. We're going to go on a journey, which we've already begun, but I'm just like really setting the intention to dive into the journey deeper here. And so I keep feeling called to get pulled back into this conversation, and the awareness, the reason, or I would say the awareness that began for me, which was really quite recently, was when I started talking to a friend and was like, wow, we both feel really deeply. Her and I would have these very in-depth conversations, and we recognized that we were very much alike in that sense, where we just felt things so intensely and so loudly. And when I reflect on it even deeper, I remember I had this partner um in recent past that he just couldn't understand why I felt so much and why there was just so much. It always just felt like it was ugh, like it was just so much all the time. And there is a fine line. I find that if there is high sensitivity, and someone is feeling things bigger, that means they feel joy to a greater, I don't want to say greater capacity, because from what I understand in the documentary is that um high sensitivity means like um like sensory awareness is what I would say. One of the things that highly sensitive people can do, and forgive me, I'm just like, I watched the documentary and I'm putting the puzzle pieces together in my brain. So, um, fact check and take what resonates for you personally. Um, I'm not claiming any of these things from like a PhD or an educated standpoint. This is all very like self-perception, and I would say it's educated because it's personal experience, and I think that's the best education that you have, but that's where I'm speaking from so that we're clear. And I would feel my suffering so incredibly, like, and if we don't understand where we're at on that, sensitivity spectrum, um and are maybe completely unaware that a sensitivity spectrum even exists, then when we feel like extra pain and we're feeling things deeper and we're feeling like the pulse of the earth and have no idea why, or are like feeling these things and can't pinpoint what it is or why it's happening, and we think something's wrong with us. Okay, beautiful. Because that is where I picked up drugs, is because I was like, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with my brain. And in order for me to stay in my relationships and stay in school, and I'm going to start doing this drug because it numbs, it takes away that feeling too much. It takes away that over, and I'm saying this because of my own personal experience and based on like how I project people would look at me was over dramatized, or um my mom would say you just overanalyze everything, or um yeah, my dad would say like there's always a reasoning for everything with you, or something along these lines, where it's just like, nothing is just ever just the way it is. It's like, no, it's XYZ LMNOP. But it feels like that's always been the way that my brain works. And to take it back to what this documentary was talking about, um, mm, that's so interesting. We never hear sirens around here because it's like a town of 2,200 people. Anyways, there's like an ambulance sounding. So I'm kind of losing my trail of thought a little bit, and I feel like this lethargy and nostalgia kicking in as I talk about these things. It really feels like something that I am on a very deeper level coming to understand within myself, and therefore I am uprooting all the things that I did and all the, experiences that where I came across this high sensitivity and had no idea and used drugs or some other means of self-harm, or to shut it off or make it be quiet or have it go away. And this really all comes hand in hand with what I'm doing today and sharing it on my YouTube channel because um, I, if you're familiar with my content, a lot of it is about feeling like you're allowed to feel, you're allowed to feel, you're allowed to feel. And the reason, and I'm finding this to like really go hand in hand with the reasoning for that, right? And I'm unfolding and unraveling quite publicly in this, so nothing is um my identity is very fluid, and as is my teachings, like they're ever changing and evolving with me, um which is a part of the process, right? And hmm. So the reason I say that, and it's become clear like just recently, or is continuing to unravel with clarity, why like you're allowed to feel this way, you're allowed, you're allowed, you're allowed, is because for so long, literally, I'm 26, almost 27 now. And I don't normally tell people my age, so don't let that get in the way of you receiving some information or a message or something that you need to hear, because I know that age can really put like a judgment on things of like she doesn't know, whatever, man. Age is something that society made up so that they could keep track of us. Otherwise, we would just count sunspins and it didn't matter what age you were or what. We would just take teachings as they come, and some people are channels and some people are not. And this is something I feel deeply, one of those things that I feel really deeply because, um, yeah, people would shut me out automatically because of my age at a very young age. And that pissed me off because I've always felt like 20 years older than what my actual age is, and that's really annoying. It's really annoying, actually. Especially when people that are older than you are like, "Oh, you're just a baby." I'm like, "You have no idea. You have no idea how not baby I am. I wish I were a fucking baby. Pardon my French. I wish, I wish I, uh, I lived life at a slower pace and got to experience my 20s in my 20s. No, I'm 72 in a 26-year-old body, so do not be fooled. Ugh. Anyways, I say this because like if I died tomorrow, I'm like, we're full. The cup's the cup's been full since we were 18, so um yeah, I'm tired. I'm tired. It's been a long journey. And anyways, so when I was 16 is when this all began, or at least I consciously remember choosing to make the decision to turn off these really loud emotions that I felt all the time. And and so 26 now, it's been a decade. A decade, and I would say I'm now just coming into that awareness that it must be the cacao that makes me gassy. Hmm. So for a decade, I lived my life in a very emotionally suppressing way. And alongside with becoming aware of addictive tendencies and addiction tendencies, I realized like my greatest addiction was to suppress my emotions. And with all of this new information and kind of things that are also coming through internally and from spirit and within my divine communication, I fully understand why I feel so called to be a voice for the people, and that voice says you're allowed to feel, you're allowed to feel everything you're feeling, because for the last 10 years of my life I did everything in my power not to feel. I did everything in my power not to feel to the extent that I felt. And now that I am unraveling these awarenesses and insights and um, ideas, I guess, I'm really, I'm really feeling like I have power, or I'm back in my power, like as if I'm taking my power back away from, or taking it back from that which I was giving it to, which was this idea that I'm not supposed to feel this way. That was like a belief ingrained in me, is like, I'm not supposed to feel this way. And if I look at my parents, they often have ways of interpreting that, oh, like you shouldn't feel that way. Like you should be grateful, or you should be like, yes. And also, what you're feeling is valid. Like you can be grieving a death and also be really grateful to have a home to grieve it, to grieve that death in. Death, death, death. Hmm. And so, yeah, I do feel like I'm disassociating a little bit. Disassociating. And my brain is going into like a little bit of like a survival mode, which is really powerful to bring onto the forefront. And the reason I voice these things about what's going on inside of me is because this is how I started to create a safe space inside myself for the extremities of the emotions that go on inside of me. Was I was like, okay, we're feeling this way, this pattern is coming up, my brain's going into survival mode. um to me, survival mode, the when my brain starts to overthink, or it's almost like the fight, freeze, flight response. When the brain overthinks, right, that's fighting. Freeze is, it just kind of starts to shut down, and like my pauses get longer, or I hit like a brick wall and I'm just like, what was I talking about? um And see, these were all things that I was like, oh, maybe it was because of the drugs. Maybe it was because of this. Maybe it was because of I hit my head and I got a brain injury. And, there's all these fingers I could point at, so many things. I'm like, oh, maybe it's because, but when it all seems so clear now that I am highly sensitive. And that requires me to move with ease, grace, and due to being highly sensitive, I have a great awareness of my emotions and the way in which my brain operates, and right, which some of you um, have seen in previous videos, and how but coming back to fight, freeze, flight, um, which is like the running, right? That's the avoidance. That's the picking up this. That's the watching the movie to shut off the brain. That's the picking up the drugs, the alcohol, the cigarettes, the whatever it is to make whatever's going on inside of you go away, right? And so those are like the survival responses. And when I witness my brain go into like that survival response, it's just showing me that there is a sensitivity or an emotion that I'm feeling overwhelmed by. And so the brain automatically, as a protection, just like the nervous system does, it takes us into a protective, I want to say zone, but I don't feel like that's the appropriate way to say it. Um, Response, that's it. It takes us into this protective response. And yeah, like even mine right now, it's going into like one of those protection modes where it just like slows me down and and letting it exist without trying to make it be any other way. Like there's all kinds of thoughts going through my mind right now. Oh, like I'm gonna just redo this. I shouldn't post this. This is like, look at me, I'm gapping out. Um, People don't want to watch me gap out. But as I'm talking about it, and I'm like, oh no, like this is the reprogramming that's happening right here, is when I'm voicing it, I'm witnessing it, I'm allowing it to be there. There's like a loving, compassionate place or metaphorical container that I'm holding, and the sun is gleaming in my eyes, assuring me that I have divine support coming through. It's so crazy because it's just bouncing off the neighbor's window through my window, and it's actually coming from over there. The sun is behind us. And so that's really fun. That's like divinity right there, just like pew coming through and reminding me that I am safe even when I'm like, oh, I don't even, what am I trying to do? Like, what am I doing? Nobody wants to listen to me ramble. But I do truly believe, even when my brain tells me otherwise, that there is something here for someone out there. And even if it's just one person that can benefit, then I've done my work. Done my work. Um, I can't believe that late. So, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, gapping out. Oh, wow. Yeah, and so that is the awareness, is just like allowing yourself to gap out, allowing yourself to not be perfect, allowing yourself to feel the things that you're feeling. Right, and same if like if this isn't you and you know somebody that struggles on this level and you're like, maybe they're highly sensitive. Like the greatest thing for a highly sensitive person is to let them be the way they are. Like you're allowed to feel. That's I'm gonna keep saying it. I'm gonna keep saying it, and I'm pretty sure that is what I do for people now. Is I help highly insensitive people channel their sensitivity and explore it as a gift rather than a hindrance, because it only becomes a hindrance when we don't have a channel for it. And so that's something that's really interesting that we'll get into, because as you see here, and if you've checked out my channel, I call them wisdom rants. And what I have found is hey, the more that I show up here and vocalize what's going on inside of me, for my personal benefit, whether it's for, I mean, it is for me, but again, it's also because I want to help others that are struggling on the same levels, and that can, because I don't feel like I'm alone. I feel like there's more of us through this, and for those of you that need assistance expressing, it feels appropriate to share. Like there are even artists, there are many artists that are highly sensitive, like like Aurora. If you guys don't know who Aurora is, she is a Norwegian, um, they call her a pop star, but she her music is feeling like, you just listen to it and you know she feels deeper than most. And same with Fora. Fora is a rap artist. He's really great. Um, Especially I think for a man that's trying to also unravel these things, because I can't speak from a male perspective because I identify as female, but uh yeah, there's definitely a whole different game, having grown up male, and to be the, I know we have different levels of cultural allowing within our emotional, but from what I'm familiar with is men aren't supposed to have feelings. And so I can understand on like an even deeper level um how if you identify as male you could be struggling with just gender um appropriations, is that the word? Or like gender association or yeah, you guys get what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I must have dandruff or something. As soon as I cut my hair off, I went bald, I got dandruff. Suddenly, like, there was no moisture up there. I don't know why I'm telling you that. Wow. I do want to take this moment to say, if you're here with me, thank you so much for just allowing me to take up space in your day, and hopefully giving you something that's of value, benefit, or entertainment. Um, if I made you smile for just a brief moment, I think that that's enough for me. And although I do hope you receive more from this than just a smile, but um, yeah, I don't necessarily need you to receive this in any particular way, but I just want to thank you for receiving it. It means a lot to me, and your love and support and time means a lot to me. And so thank you, because you are the reason, you sitting here right now are the reason that I continue to show up here and um feel not just called, because I always feel called to go on these ramble rants, but it I guess it validates and um gives me greater appreciation through it, and that it's actually worth it. It's worth it. Like it's worth it for me to sit here for a freaking hour setting up my microphone and my camera and my you know, on a Sunday when I normally like when people ask me what I'm doing on Sunday, I say I'm not on Earth on Sunday. Because I'm not most of the time. Right now I'm kind of on Earth, but um yeah, so it really confirms that like these efforts are not wasted. When you guys leave me a really in-depth comment or just, to say like, wow, I love this. Thank you so much. Even if it does resonate for you and you don't feel like sharing, drop me an emoji. You can drop me like the wave emoji because the ocean represents emotions. And so if this does resonate for you and you just want to show a little love and support, drop me a wave in the comments. I would greatly appreciate it. It also helps other people who need to hear this message receive it. And it's totally free. So that is a win-win for everybody. And it really helps grow this community of, yeah, all of us highly sensitive individuals who have been stuck in a culture or a society or a world where we weren't allowed to be, and that is a really scary place. Um, that's a really scary place to be. And I can even, yeah, just like feel that. Mm. It's really interesting because I've now, with this awareness, realized that my target audience and like who I want to bring into this space is not just anybody, it's highly sensitive beings. because I'm a highly sensitive being and that's what I know. And so I can't just drag anybody into my client space now. And I really understand where like I can't help everybody. I mean, I to some extent, yes, I believe there's benefit for everyone here because if you're not highly sensitive, you can help somebody who's highly sensitive, or you may have a child or right. But it's really beautiful. It's really beautiful to know who who it is that I want to help, and that we're not all like this, and that's okay. And I shouldn't expect everybody to be like this and feel the way I feel, and feel to the extents that I feel things, and have the awareness and perception and sensory sensitivities that I feel and have. Um, like when I go down to the ocean, when a 4-year-old is like having like a whoa, like when I go down to the lighthouse, that's how I react. And same thing when I get into the ocean and go for a surf. Like I just laugh. I'm just like, and I always say I'm just the 4-year-old in the water, or I'm the 4-year-old at the lighthouse, or I'm the 4-year. Like I can't help but react that way. And it's because I'm feeling so much. Like the ocean tickles the internal blood in my body. Like that's, I don't know how else to explain it. And it's hilarious. It's enlivening. It's enriching to experience these things, but not if they're not being channeled. And so this is a really good segue into sorry, my head is so itchy today. I didn't condition or something. Segueing. Oh yeah, channeling. Okay, so what I've recognized for myself, say you're like, okay, I'm exploring that I'm maybe a highly sensitive being and I feel things bigger and differently and louder. And it's one of the symptoms that I feel deeply at this point. And you can be an extrovert too, like it goes either way. Um, but when the extroverted part of me being highly sensitive is super outgoing, like craves human connection and just wants to like revel in people's stories and their emotion and their just their existence. I'm just like, yes, let's just dive into our existences as humans and feeling. And then the alternative of that is in an introvert way is like I I f- I fear leaving my house sometimes. And you will also see if you've watched some of my other content or do watch that I've been exploring this, like, is it addiction? Have I just been an addict and addicted to my suffering? Have I just been um addicted to emotional suppression? Have I just been brain damaged and coming out of like going through recovery? So there's all of these, like, Brandy exploring her theories of her life, her internal life unfolding, and why I feel certain ways and do the things I do and respond. And but I know that the introvert part of me is like, when I wake up in the morning, I had a friend come over at 9 a.m. We walked past each other in the morning, and I realized if I have conversation with somebody before 10 a.m., like, it throws me off. And where's I going with that? Hmm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So the introvert part of that is that um like, I need a structure and routine. I need a little bit more certainty in certain parts of my day and certain times of the week. And or like I need to mentally and emotionally prepare for certain things. And so just like having a friend come in for a tea at 9 a.m. one day, like randomly, was like so far outside of that comfort zone, that it really screwed me up, and it was overwhelming. And so overwhelm is one of that other side of the spectrum, I would say, or just one of the symptoms You could say, I don't think symptoms is the right word because we're not talking about an illness here. We're talking about a way of being and a way of perceiving and a way of um, yeah, way of way of existing and experiencing. That's a good way. A way of experiencing. And so I've recognized that introverted aspect of my highly sensitive being is like I can't do eye contact before 10 a.m. I can't exert energy anywhere. Like there's a lot of things that are overwhelming or sensory overwhelming. Um, and it's interesting because what I've been studying over the last decade of my life, you know, alongside emotional mastery, is neurolinguistics programming, and that's the way in which our sensory operating systems come in and are communicated through neural networks and the nervous system and how it all communicates with itself and together and is a symbiotic or a symbiosis. What's the word? But basically, the way it all just communicates with itself and that language in which it communicates often can be changed. And that language can also be like lenses, right? So if you're having a good day, you're more likely to interpret things through like a happier lens, in very basic terms. And if you're having a bad day, then you're going to interpret things through a darker lens, or whatever way, right? Sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's I see colors, or like the voice is meaner than some days than others, and um so that oh, see, I'm totally losing my trail of thought once again. And it's because I'm feeling things come up that I can't share with you guys. Can I pause this? I can't pause it. Well, maybe we'll leave this as like a part one. And this is a good foundational piece for me to go in to deeper layers of what it means to be highly sensitive and the way highly sensitive people experience things from a very personal perspective, and how to channel that, right? That's what I wanted to get into. But I gotta go to the bathroom, you guys, if I'm being totally honest. And I can't pause this. Maybe I can make it all in one big segment and I can just cut this part out that I told you guys. But I'm almost at an hour anyways, so it feels like a good way to clip this in the butt or finalize this. I don't know, bring it to an end. I don't know. I have to go to the bathroom. I can't. My brain's not working anymore. But anyways, I love you guys. I hope this were able to help you in some way, shape, or form. Look for part two if you want to know more, how to channel it, how to exercise it, how to use it appropriately, how to use it instead of letting it use you, and basically take your power back from everything we've been giving it to, thinking that there's something wrong with this, because there's nothing wrong with you. You are gifted. You have the ability to sense and perceive with greater awareness and perception in different ways. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And if I were somebody else, I would wish to be highly sensitive, because as great as I feel like a tortured genius sometimes, I love that I have the ability to perceive and see life the way I see it. And yeah, it makes me feel like a genius. And I think we're all geniuses in our own way. And so it's time to start exercising our genius instead of thinking that it's a defect. And yeah, I'm going to help you through this process if that's you out there. I love you guys. Have a blessed rest of your day. Keep an eye out for part two. Love you. Bye for now.